All right, now let's talk about the aiming process. First thing we're going to talk about is iron sight usage. So if you look here, we've got essentially depicted our rear sights. This is what it looked like on most Glocks, with our front sight post in the front with a little dot. And then the center dashed line is going to represent what would be center of the gun. So if we took a shot like this with our front sight off to the right, our bullet would impact off to the right. So because of the front sight post not being streamlined or correctly centered of the gun, you're going to be hitting off to the right. Now if we shot like this where the front sight post was off to the left, where do you think it would hit? Hopefully you said the left side and you would be correct. This would be probably how you would see your sight in low light conditions, or there are multiple sight setups that have no markings at all. So as a consideration. And then here, with our front sight post centered up, where do you think we'd hit? Yeah, right where we're aiming. Notice this is 3 dots rather than a square. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one you have. What you need to do is make sure your front sight post is centered in the rear dot, or the rear sights. When I'm doing this, what I prefer to do, that would be where you hit, but when I'm doing this, I think of these towers as a castle. I've got my left castle wall, I got my right castle tower, and then my center castle tower. And to build a castle that doesn't fall over after time, everything's got to be even, have a good foundation. So when I'm shooting, I want to make sure that all the towers' height are equal. And then the light or the space between the towers are even. So equal light, equal height, or castle. Castle, castle. That's what's going through my head when I'm shooting. I'm building a good castle, okay? Any change in elevation, if this tower is high or low, you're going to hit high or low respectively. So we want to make sure we got even height, even light between. One last thing that I'll say is with these dots, in my personal assessment, it's easier for me to line up the tops and the 90-degree angles of the towers than it is to try to line up the center of the circle. Because where is the center of this circle? It's very difficult to assess that. So when we're trying to line up 3 different circles, sometimes that gets difficult to track. So what I like to do is look at the hard lines, the tower tops, and the walls, the 90-degree angles. I'll line those up and then I will hyper focus on that center front sight post dot. Now we're going to talk sight pictures. So once we've figured out our aiming, where we've got a good castle built, equal height and equal light in between, now we got to talk about what are we aiming with. So if we wanted to hit the bullseye of this bullseye target in the background, which one would we aim with? Well, hopefully you said sight image 3, we would want to aim here. If we aimed with this one, we would hit low, that's where we would hit if we had good trigger pull. So you're aiming with the center dot, and that's what we're going to focus on, which is what we're going to show you next. When you're aiming your firearm, understand that the human eye can typically only focus on one thing at a time, one focal plane. Meaning, if you put your hand in front of your face and you really focus on your hand, you can't see much with clarity what's happening behind your hand. You can see it, but it's blurry. If you've ever been driving down the road, I don't recommend doing this, but if you've ever been driving down the road and focused on your windshield, it's very dangerous because you can't see the road and the cars around you. So one focal plane at a time. So when we're talking about sights on a pistol, where do we focus with iron sight specifically? Well, we want to focus on the front sight post, not the target and not the rear sight. It's that center point in between. And if we have good front sight focus, we can make sure we have equal light, equal height, or we've got a good castle, okay? If we're focused on the target, we're not going to see what our sights are doing because they're going to be blurry.